Why did Patrick Swayze's family accuse Lisa Niemi of keeping him away in his final days? Why did she insist, "I will always be married to him," even after remarrying? And why do some believe we'll never know the full truth? Before they met. Before Patrick Swayze and Lisa Niemi became one of Hollywood's most famous couples, they lived very different lives, shaped by discipline, ambition, and a love for dance. Patrick Wayne Swayze was born in Houston, Texas, on August 18, 1952. From an early age, he was raised in a home where movement was everything. His mother, Patsy Swayze, was a renowned dance instructor and choreographer. She ran one of the toughest dance studios in the state, shaping young talents with military-like precision. Patrick, however, wasn't just a dancer. He was a natural athlete, excelling in gymnastics, football, and martial arts. He had the strength and agility for sports, but the grace and discipline for ballet. While many Texas boys saw dance as weak, Patrick embraced it. His combination of power and elegance made him stand out. His father, Jesse Swayze, was his role model, a tough, no-nonsense man who worked with his hands. Patrick idolized him but also inherited his father's intensity. He wanted to be the best, whether it was on the football field, in a ballet studio, or on a stage. That hunger for perfection would follow him for life. Lisa Ann Niemi was born on May 26, 1956 in Houston, Texas, to a Finnish-American family. Unlike Patrick, she wasn't raised around show business, but she had an independent streak from a young age, and she found her passion in ballet. While other kids played outside, Lisa was in a dance studio, perfecting every movement with laser-focused discipline. She was quiet, reserved, and completely committed to her craft. Lisa's talent eventually led her to Patsy Swayze's dance studio, where she trained under one of the strictest teachers in the business. She wasn't there to make friends. She was there to dance. And then Patrick walked in. They were opposites in many ways. He was outgoing, charismatic, always looking for fun. She was serious, private, and fiercely independent. Neither of them knew it yet, but their worlds were about to collide in a way that would change their lives forever. The love story. Patrick Swayze met Lisa Niemi before the fame, the movies, and the red carpets. It was 1970 and Patrick was 18. Lisa was just 14, training at his mother's dance studio in Houston. Patsy Swayze ran a tough program, but Lisa stood out, quiet, focused, and determined. Patrick noticed her right away. At first, Lisa wasn't interested. She wasn't one to fall for charm, even Patrick's. But he kept showing up, making her laugh, proving he was serious. Over time, she let her guard down, and by 1975, they were married. They weren't just partners in life, they were partners in dance, discipline, and dreams. Patrick's career took off in the 1980s, but Dirty Dancing in 1987 changed everything. Suddenly, he was a global heartthrob. Fans saw his on-screen chemistry with Jennifer Grey, but behind the scenes, Lisa was his real-life rock. She understood his work ethic, his perfectionism, and the pressure he put on himself. But fame has a price. Patrick was gone for long stretches, filming, touring, promoting. The quiet life they once had faded into the background. Lisa had her own ambitions. She was a dancer, a licensed pilot, and later, an author. But their marriage wasn't always easy. To the world, they were Hollywood's strongest couple. No scandals, no drama, just pure devotion. They stayed out of tabloid messes, never flaunted their love for attention. But behind closed doors, there were struggles few people saw. The hidden struggles. Patrick and Lisa looked like the perfect couple, unstoppable, devoted, unbreakable. But away from the cameras, things weren't so simple. Patrick had always been hard on himself. He didn't just aim for success, he demanded perfection. Whether it was dancing, acting, or riding horses, he pushed himself to the limit. That drive made him a star, but it also made him restless. He never felt like he was doing enough. Lisa saw it all. She knew the pressure, the self-doubt, the need to prove himself over and over again. She tried to keep him grounded, but Patrick wasn't always easy to reach. His work came first, and the time they spent together kept shrinking. By the late 80s, the cracks in their marriage were hard to ignore. Patrick's fame was at its peak, but with it came long days on set, back-to-back projects, and the exhaustion of always being on. The industry wasn't kind. Studio executives, directors, and producers all had expectations. Fans wanted him to be the charming heartthrob they saw on screen. And Patrick, he wanted to be everything for everyone. The stress built up, and when Patrick was stressed, he drank. Alcohol had been part of his life for years, but as the pressure grew, so did his reliance on it. Lisa saw the shift. He wasn't just having drinks with friends, he was drinking to escape. And when he drank, his emotions ran high. Reports from close friends described Patrick as passionate but intense. He wasn't violent, but he could be difficult. The perfectionism that made him great also made him hard to live with. He expected a lot from himself, and sometimes that bled into his marriage. Lisa stayed. She always stayed. But people around them started to wonder, was she holding on too tightly? Even as things got harder, they kept the struggles private. No public fights, no scandals, no tabloid leaks. They refused to be another Hollywood couple that fell apart under the spotlight. The ghost of alcoholism. Patrick Swayze was a fighter, on screen, in life, and within himself. But some battles can't be won with hard work and determination. His struggle with alcohol was one of them. Drinking wasn't new to Patrick. He had started young, and for a while, it was just part of life. But after his father, Jesse Swayze, died in 1982, something changed. The loss hit him like a wrecking ball. Jesse had been his hero, his biggest supporter. Without him, Patrick felt lost. And when he felt lost, he drank. At first, it was easy to justify. A few drinks after work, a way to take the edge off. But soon, it became more than that. Long filming days, high expectations, and constant pressure pushed him further into the bottle. It wasn't just an escape. It was a way to quiet the voice in his head that told him he wasn't good enough. Lisa saw it all. She had been with Patrick long enough to know when something wasn't right. She tried to help, to pull him back. But addiction isn't something you fix with love alone. Friends and co-stars started noticing too. There were days when Patrick was sharp, focused, unstoppable. And then there were days when he wasn't himself, distant, irritable, weighed down by something he couldn't shake. He wasn't reckless in public. He didn't spiral in front of cameras. But behind closed doors, the weight of his demons grew heavier. Lisa stood by him, but it wasn't easy. Some sources claim their arguments got worse when he drank, not because he was cruel, but because he was frustrated, with himself, with his career, with the feeling that no matter what he did, it was never enough. He went through cycles, periods of sobriety, then relapses. Some thought he had it under control, others weren't so sure. A love tested by tragedy. In the late 1980s, Lisa became pregnant. For a couple who had built their lives together since they were teenagers, it should have been a new, joyful chapter, but instead it turned into one of their darkest moments. Lisa suffered a miscarriage. Patrick was devastated. He had always wanted to be a father, to build the kind of family his own father had given him. But now, that dream was gone. And just like when his dad died, he didn't know how to handle the pain. Grief is complicated. Some people cry, some talk about it. Patrick drank. Lisa, heartbroken in her own way, had to watch as Patrick spiraled deeper into his struggle with alcohol. The miscarriage wasn't just a personal loss, it was a turning point in their relationship. He pulled away, and she had to decide whether she could keep holding on. Close friends saw the shift. Patrick had always been passionate, but now there was an edge to him. He bottled up his emotions until they exploded in frustration. Never violent, never cruel, just raw, overwhelming grief that had nowhere to go. Lisa tried to be strong. She had always been the steady force in their relationship, the one who kept them moving forward. But she wasn't just his wife. She was a person with her own pain, and for the first time she felt alone in their marriage. The loss of their child was never something they spoke about publicly. No interviews, no quotes, no deep dives into how it affected them. But those who knew them saw how it lingered, how it changed them. Over time, they found a way to keep going. Patrick threw himself into work. Lisa focused on her own projects. They were still together, still standing side by side. But something had shifted. They had survived the tragedy, but the scars never fully healed. The other side of Patrick Swayze. He was Hollywood's golden boy, charming, dedicated, and endlessly hard-working. But behind closed doors, there was another side to him, one few people saw. He had always been intense. Whether it was dancing, acting, or his personal life, Patrick didn't do anything halfway. He demanded perfection from himself and, at times, from those around him. When things didn't go right, he felt it deeply. Lisa Niemi knew this better than anyone. She had spent decades by his side, witnessing his highest highs and lowest lows, but as his fame grew, so did the pressure. And when the pressure mounted, Patrick's emotions became harder to control. He was never violent, but he could be overwhelming. Friends recall moments when his frustration boiled over, when small mistakes on set or in rehearsals would send him into a spiral of self-criticism. He wanted to be the best. No, he needed to be the best, and anything less felt like failure. Lisa was often the one who had to absorb those emotions. She was his support system, the one who reassured him, kept him steady. But that role was exhausting. Some who knew them privately wondered, did she ever feel trapped in that dynamic? Then there was the drinking. When Patrick was sober, he was focused, driven, unstoppable. But when alcohol entered the equation, things changed. His emotions became even more unpredictable, sometimes joyful, sometimes deeply reflective, sometimes just distant. Lisa wasn't blind to it. She had fought to pull him out of these dark places before. But as the years passed, it became harder. He would swear he had it under control, promise he'd stop, only to slip again when stress or grief hit. Patrick was a fighter, but this was one battle he couldn't quite win. He never let his struggles show in public. Fans saw only the charismatic star, the man who made dancing look effortless, who delivered lines with charm and confidence. But behind that image was someone constantly battling the weight of his own expectations. Lisa stayed. She always stayed. But as Patrick's personal struggles deepened, so did the strain on their marriage. The cancer battle. In early 2008, Patrick Swayze received the diagnosis that changed everything: pancreatic cancer. By the time doctors found it, it was already stage 4. The odds were brutal. For a man who had spent his life pushing through pain, this was the ultimate test. He refused to let it define him. Instead of retreating, he kept working, filming the beast while undergoing treatment. He wanted to prove he was still in control. Lisa Niemi was by his side every step of the way. She became his caretaker, managing medications, doctor visits, and the emotional toll of watching him fight. She had always been strong for him, but this was different. The disease was relentless, and so was Patrick's determination to keep going. But behind closed doors, it wasn't easy. The treatments drained him. His body, once powerful and full of life, weakened. The emotional strain between them grew. Patrick hated being dependent. Lisa hated seeing him suffer. They clashed. Reports surfaced about moments of tension, whispered stories of Patrick lashing out in frustration. The man who had always prided himself on his strength was now battling something he couldn't control. And that reality weighed on both of them. Still, Lisa stayed. Even in the hardest moments, she never walked away. But some questioned whether their love was as solid as it seemed. Was she standing by him out of devotion, or was there something unspoken between them? Patrick held on for 20 months, far longer than doctors expected. He fought not just against the disease, but against the idea of letting go. Lisa was there until the very end. But when he took his final breath in September 2009, it wasn't just grief that followed, it was silence. And that silence raised more questions than anyone expected. The emotional vow. At Patrick Swayze's funeral, Lisa Niemi stood before family, friends, and Hollywood elites and made a vow, "I will always be married to you." It was meant to be a tribute, a declaration of undying love. But for some, the words carried a deeper weight. What did she mean? Why did it sound less like a goodbye and more like an unbreakable bond that refused to end? Lisa had been with Patrick for over 30 years. She had nursed him through his illness, stayed through every struggle, and held his hand in his final moments. To the world, her devotion was undeniable. But in the months after his death, the conversation around her vow took a turn. Some close to Patrick questioned what really happened in his final days. His brother, Don Swayze, and other family members later hinted at tensions behind the scenes, suggesting that Lisa kept Patrick isolated toward the end. Others whispered about conflicts over medical decisions and control over his care. Then there was the matter of his estate. Lisa inherited nearly everything, leaving some family members feeling cut off. Was Patrick's will a reflection of his true wishes, or was it shaped by the woman who stood by him until the end? To Lisa, her vow wasn't complicated. She had spent her entire adult life by Patrick's side. His death didn't erase that, but to outsiders, it became a mystery, a lingering question of love, loyalty, and unfinished business. Lisa kept her promise, at least for a while. But just 4 years later, she remarried, leaving many wondering, did her vow mean what she said, or was it just words spoken in grief? What started as a touching farewell soon became a point of controversy, and as time went on, the silence surrounding Patrick's final days only made the questions grow louder. Family fallout and inheritance controversy. After Patrick Swayze's death, grief wasn't the only thing left behind. So was a growing divide between Lisa Niemi and his family. Lisa inherited nearly everything. Patrick's estate, estimated at around $40 million, went entirely to her. His mother, brothers, and extended family received nothing. To some, it seemed like a natural decision. Lisa had been his wife for over 30 years, but to others, it raised serious questions. Patrick had been close with his family for most of his life. His mother, Patsy Swayze, had shaped him into the man he became. His brother, Don Swayze, had stood by him through thick and thin. Yet, in the final years of his life, Patrick's interactions with them became fewer. Some believed this was simply due to his illness. Others suspected something else. Whispers began circulating that Lisa had kept Patrick isolated in his final days, controlling access to him. His family later hinted that they had concerns about the care he was receiving, but had little say in the matter. The biggest controversy came when reports surfaced that Patrick's signature on legal documents, including his will, looked different from his usual handwriting. Some began speculating. Was Patrick too weak to make these decisions, or was something being done without his full control? Lisa never publicly addressed these claims. She moved forward, selling the ranch she and Patrick had shared and restarting her life. Then, in 2014, she remarried, causing another wave of backlash from those who felt she had moved on too quickly. To Patrick's fans, the way his legacy unfolded after his death felt unsettling. The once unbreakable bond between his wife and family had fractured. Did Patrick leave everything to Lisa by choice, or was there more to the story? And why, even years later, did his family still feel something wasn't right? The truth that never came out. For years, she had been seen as Patrick's rock, the one who stood by him through every hardship. But after his passing, whispers of a different reality grew louder. Close friends and former employees spoke out, hinting that Lisa wasn't the devoted wife the public believed. Some alleged that their marriage had been troubled for years, that Patrick had endured emotional struggles behind closed doors. There were even claims that Lisa had a controlling grip over his life in his final months. But if Patrick was unhappy, why did he stay? Some believe it was loyalty. Lisa had been there from the beginning, and he never imagined life without her. Others wonder if, by the time he realized how much control she had, it was already too late. One of the biggest mysteries surrounded Patrick's will. As speculation about his signature looking different continued, legal experts weighed in. If the allegations were true, it would suggest someone else had a hand in shaping his final wishes, yet no legal action was ever taken. Lisa never engaged with the controversy. Instead, she distanced herself, avoiding deep discussions about Patrick's final months. She published a memoir, but it carefully omitted details that might have confirmed or denied the rumors. Patrick's family never outright accused Lisa of wrongdoing, but their silence spoke volumes. Over the years, they made it clear that they didn't agree with how things unfolded after his death. The truth? It may never come out,